Hey guys, as I said in my last video, I am here to compare the new Forest Hideout 40567 with the classic Forestmen's Hideout 6054. So the name is slightly different, but as you can tell they are clear, it's a clear redesign of the original. Before I go into the sets themselves, I want to take a look at the box. I only have a box for Forest Hideout, so I can't compare the size. But even though this had less pieces, a few less pieces, I imagine the box was larger, because at the time, usually the boxes had more air in them. The instructions, the new set has 51 regular instructions, 51 regular steps. The old set 6054 had 23 steps on a pamphlet, so it unfolded. Now, I don't have all the extra pieces for the old set. I cannot say exactly what they were. But at that time the feathers came on wheels of 3, large, medium, and small. So we would have had 6 feathers in total for this set. A set of white and a set of yellow. Then just recreating the 2 smaller pieces, getting 1 extra of each smaller piece, would have given us this. The smaller pieces, of course, were the gold inside the barrel, which was yellow at the time. The newer set, I still have the extra pieces aside from the one that I just dropped. So on the newer set, you can see here we have an extra sword. We have 2 extra feathers for a total of 3 feathers. We have the flower base and a few other small pieces. As for the pieces themselves, the new set comes with 258 pieces. The old set comes with 201. So we have 57 extra pieces in the new set. I think most of those come in here in the target for the arrow. That's a joke, but compared to the old one with only 3 pieces, it is quite a difference. So we'll start comparing this. This is a big improvement now on a tripod, but the old one, I think it was fine. It still did its job. It still was the target. The only issue I have with this is that if you bend back too far, this is as far back as it will bend, and if you continue to bend, you'll pull this apart, which some older Lego fans may know. This could break, so you could break off especially one of the ends of the 3. So it is an improved design, but this is something Lego will not make since sometime in the 90s, I imagine. They both come with barrels. You can see the barrel color has changed slightly. And the new one uses actual gold looking pieces rather than the classic yellow of the 80s. Okay, now let's go on to the minifigures. Did I get those barrels backwards? Let's go on to the minifigures. The new set minifigures, you can see one is clearly a female figure. Other is a male figure who is smirking. So we do have a lot of detail on the face. But the weapons they come with are exactly the same. It's interesting that the feather choice, it's a different color, but that's not really an issue. They decided to keep the printing the same for both of these figures, whereas the older set, the printing is different. The face printing is the same, but on the newer figures, there is a back printing on both of them, but I just don't want to remove the arrow quiver. So it is the same torso on both of these figures, whereas These have different torsos, but same face and no printing on the back. So if I was to say, I would say that the new figures are an improvement, although these figures are also quite nice. And I will say they are the same, but the old set does come with 2 vines, which can also kind of be a whip. This is something the new set did not come with. Okay, now let's go on to the main event, the sets themselves. So let's first put the minifigures aside and compare the height. So you can see they're roughly the same size. They both have an entrance in the back in the same spot. They both have a small tree. This one's small tree is in the front. But the older set had a large tree as well. The newer set has a flower and a mushroom. So these pieces were around in this day in space, probably not in this exact color combo, because this peach-like color was not introduced at the time, but they could have done something similar to a mushroom. This new set has 1 spear, whereas in the old set we had 2 spears. So we do have an extra weapon aside from the whips in the older set. Let me also say that the older set base was 2 of these pieces, but I couldn't find one of them, so I'm using this base plate. That's why this looks wrong. It should be 1 more of these. Speaking of the base, if we compare the bases, they would be the same size, only that the new set curves it on the edges, which is probably my only complaint about the new set. If you hold it by one of these, this is the easiest area to grab it by, it will quickly come apart. And this mushroom stand is there for stability, but it doesn't do a perfect job. Okay, now let's compare height. So you can see they are very roughly the same size, and if we butt them up to each other, we can see the older set has a slightly taller shield spot and just barely taller blue roof starting point, maybe by 1 stud or even 2/3 of 1 stud. But the tallest clearly goes to the new set with its improved treetop. So no matter how you twist that, I think it will always come out on top. So they are very similar, but again, slightly different. Now let's go to the inside where I saw the biggest difference. Let me point out that they both have very similar looking structures here. But here we have the decorative brick, which was not available in 1988. So you can see an improvement in the way it looks here. Also, these are made with 1x2 with the kind of bend in the middle. These were made with what is the cannonball, the round oneers. So on the inside, let's first look at the older set. So both of these trees open up. They both have an entryway here. And then they have 3 quarter panels on the bottom, 2 quarter panels on the second floor, along with the area for this sort of fortress area. Okay, and one thing I will say about this is you lose some space here, which you really can't put anything. I mean, you could put that sideways, but that's about it. It doesn't fit really anything else. Also, the Forestmen and their hair cannot really fit in here without sitting down. They can fit in here easily, but where the older quarter panel was, it's harder to fit them, and there's no studs to place them on. Maybe minor details, but it does detract the play value slightly. On the newer set, we see a lot of that has sort of improved. We still have, see, it's hard to tell, but we do have more quarter panels here. So we do have 3 quarter panels on the bottom, similar to the older set. Here we actually have a ladder for them to get up. We have a little less platform room here in the fortress area, but we have more over here. And we still have a sort of height problem, but I like this design more as there are studs for them to stand on. I also like the ladder. So in the newer set, in the instructions, they tell you to place the barrel here. And I think that looks rather nice. So I will say that this sort of transition into the tree does look a little strange to me, but re-looking at the old set, doesn't really look much better. So this one does end up looking a lot, the new one ends up looking a lot more realistic. I will say this one seems a lot more fragile. We have a lot of hanging leaves at odd angles, which makes it more realistic, of course. That's good, but also a bit more fragile. I feel like the old one was very sturdy with, so the leaves bend a lot, but I think this one would survive a crash a little better. In the end, I think what it all boils down to is that this one is is a very, very good tribute and redesign of the original set. This one improves in most ways to the original set while keeping the spirit of the old set. So I really think that this is a better set, although there's nothing wrong with the 1988 set. It's still a great set, it's still a classic set. People really like it for good reasons. So I hope you liked the review, and I will bring some more classic castle as I prepare for the new $400 castle to be released later this year. Thanks for watching.